Hi freelancer, welcome back to the Freelance Blueprint. I'm your host Lisi, a freelance UX designer and digital nomad, and today we're going to talk about how to set your rates as a freelancer. If you're new to freelancing, this will blow your mind. You'll soon learn how much more you can charge as a freelancer compared to what you've earned per the hour per day as an employee. And if you've been freelancing for a while, chances are you're more likely undercharging than overcharging. But how do you know if you're charging too high or too low? So after today's episode, I hope you'll be able to set your pricing in a way that works for you and makes you feel more confident the next time you tell your potential clients your rate, or when you message them that you increase your rates, which you might realize that you'll have to do after listening to today's episode. So first of all, there are 3 different ways you can charge for your services. You can charge against the time, so by the hour or on a day rate, which is something I think it's the most common way to charge, or you can charge on a project fee, or you can also charge on a retainer basis. So let me explain all the 3 and the pros and cons of each of the modules. Let's start with the hourly or day rate, because I think that's the most easy one to understand. The way what I've experienced as UX designer is that most clients understand that you can charge per the day or per the hour. So when you start freelancing, that's also most likely what you'll opt for. And many people say it's not the best way to charge. It's better to charge on a project basis or on a retainer basis. And you charge based on the value that you provide instead of the time you invest. And I fully agree with that. But to figure out how much you need to invest, like not just the skill set, the time, the admin, like you basically need to know how much time it takes you to finish a project. So even though it's not the most ideal way to charge your clients, I recommend that you start with this approach. The reason why this is important is if you exchange time for money, you cannot scale because you have a limited time you can work. Even if you want to work 24/7, you need to sleep, It's like you can't even take advantage of the money you're earning if you're working all the time. And trust me, once you take that approach and trade your time for money, you suddenly realize how much valuable your own time is. You'll ask yourself, should I go on holiday? If I do this project, I could earn this much money, but if I go on holiday, I'm just spending money. And if you start with this mindset, it's very hard to put yourself and your mental health first. Don't put too much value on your time, but also realize that your time is the most valuable thing you have. And I know it sounds very contradicting, but don't set a certain number to your time, because then you start thinking, oh, if I take this day off for my friend's birthday, I'm gonna lose out on this much money. Don't do that. But still be aware of how much money your time is worth. I know it's very contradicting. It's like a bit of a mess up, but don't get too deep into it. And if you're like me and you want to work less but make more money, exchanging your time for money is not the best approach for that. So again, it's very important that you find a way that works for you. So I still recommend to start with the time-based approach, but once you have a better understanding of how your output is and how you want to scale your business, you're probably better off swapping for a project-based or a retainer. So let's look into the other options. One of them is charging on a project fee basis. So this is great when the deliverables and the scope of the project is very well defined. How can this look? Many brand designers charge on a project basis, for example. So let's say the client wants a brand strategy, a logo. So you'll define specific deliverables. What are the brand assets? Will you also provide a font? Will you provide templates for the presentation slides or social media? Or will you stick to prints like business cards? Or I don't know if people still use business cards nowadays. But anyway, once all those things are defined, you'll agree with the client on a fee. Maybe you have a set fee for a certain amount of deliverables. That's great. Then you don't have to think. And then if they ask you like how much you're going to charge, you don't have to start to worry about if you say too much, if you say too low. Define your pricing for yourself first, but we get to that later in this podcast. But basically, you discuss a fixed pricing set for that one project for this set amount of deliverables with the client. And then I highly recommend write down in your contract specifically how the client is going to pay you for this project. For example, they pay you a deposit up front. I recommend 50% that they pay half of the money just for starting the project. And then for each milestone, they pay you again. So maybe another 20% once the brand strategy is done, another 20% for the brand assets, etc. And then the remaining 10% for once the project is wrapped up. Make sure that you have these things set up properly in a contract. So both you and the client know what to expect from one another and when they should pay you for those deliverables. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do not start working on the project until the deposit has entered your bank account. Because otherwise what can happen is that maybe there's issues with the payment and you already delivered something and it's just going to be a full mess. So set your boundaries early, define the different milestones, define the deposit and also define at what milestone they're going to pay you how much. Also note that if you charge this way, make sure that there are certain timelines set in the contract, that you won't continue to the next stage unless they've paid for the previous stage of the project and so on. And also limit the amount of amends you'll provide, because otherwise, if you have a tricky client, you'll end up losing money because they rob you of so much of your time for all the tweaks. There's going to be just one more thing, and then, oh, just one more thing. And if you reduce it to a certain amount of amends, they have to really figure out what they want you to change. And you'll have less context switching between projects. But I'll tell you more about this topic in one of the upcoming episodes when we talk about freelance contracts. Contracts are a very fun topic, but it's a very, very important one. The third way that you can charge your freelance clients is that you charge them on a retainer basis. It's one of the lesser common ways to charge your clients, but it's actually one of the best ones. It allows you to scale and to plan. And yeah, retainers are a good way also to keep a relationship with the client. So what are retainers? It's basically a subscription. If you think about Netflix, for example, think about your Netflix subscription. It doesn't matter how many times you binge your favorite series, or if you end up not watching anything at all, you'll pay the same monthly fee. Every single month, you pay the same amount and you know exactly what you can get. You know exactly you can watch all the movies that they currently have available, but also that if you don't watch anything, you still have to pay. So it's the same for your clients. They pay so that they have access to your services. If they don't use it to the capacity, good for you. This is great if you work on similar things for your clients that can easily be repeated, but it can also be overused by the client. So only offer this to sensible clients and be aware of how you manage those retainer projects. Because based on season, some months can be extremely demanding, while others you might have clients not binging a single series and you can chill. For example, as a graphic designer, come autumn, you'll have a ton of work to do to make everything ready for Christmas. But then maybe in summer, maybe you just tweak some templates that you've already got and you just change some headlines. So no matter how you decide to charge your clients, make sure it's a way that's beneficial for you and sustainable for you and works for your business. Yeah, that's it for today's episode. I hope you found it useful and feel more comfortable with your rates. And if you have any questions, comment them below. Or if there are any freelance topics that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments as well. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's at Elisabeth Meyer, Elizabeth with an S, Mayr. And yeah, that's all from me. And I can't wait to have you join again next week. Bye.